Once I have gone down and I've done all 5 nails on the one hand, I'm going to go back and do my inlay design, in which case I'm going to be using our Artisan Professional Pure Color white powder, and I also have chosen one of the neon colors, which is yellow, to come in and do my design. The reason I chose the yellow is because I do have purple and blue, yellow and orange being in the category that's directly opposite on the color wheel to give us a greater contrast. So the first thing I'm going to do is decide what kind of a design I want, in which case I'm going to do a flower. When I'm doing a flower, I like to visualize where that flower is going to be on the nail, and I always visualize a clock so that I can get my petals down in a symmetrical form. So in my mind I'm thinking the face of a clock and the numbers on a clock. So on this one I'm going to be using one of our art brushes, which is the number 4, and it's designed specifically for doing your flower petals. I'm going to pick up a very small ball of white, and then I'm just going to lightly dip that into the yellow as well. Next I'm going to blot it onto my paper towel, and then I'm going to place this ball with the yellow on the outside onto the nail. I want to let it rest just for a second so that the acrylic, the monomer and the acrylic bond together. Then I'm going to take my brush, and I can see how the product is starting to bond. And I'm going to take my brush, and using the point of my brush, I'm going to place it on the nail itself, not on the ball of product. And I'm going to start pressing from side to side, angling my brush as I do this to create that petal. Now, if you're doing an inlay, you want those petals to be as flat as possible to the nail. Once again, this is a design element. It is not the strength of the nail. So we're working this in so that it becomes one with the background. Once I have that petal down, and I can use the brush again to come in and kind of create a little bit of texture, stroke it out. And you get some of the shadowing from the background. The acrylic is very thin in this area here and built up here to form the outer ridges of the petal. Next, I'm going to repeat that process. I'm going to dip into my white, back into my yellow, then blotting my brush, I'm going to come in at a little higher angle. If that one's too dry, just take it off and start all over. It happens sometimes. It's nothing to be thrown off about. So I'm just going to dip in, pick up the ball of product, place it onto the nail. Let the acrylic blend, and I'm drying out my brush. Once that acrylic starts to lose its shine just a little bit, I'm going to come back in with my brush and start working it around. Starting from the center, establish the center point, and I always think, like I said, of a face of a clock, so I keep the point of my brush pointed where the hands or the armatures of that clock would be coming out of. Just working from the center, press and press and press. Then come in, give it some nice little strokes, giving texture to the flower petal. And I'm going to repeat that once again on a third petal. Place that down. Let the colors, the acrylics, begin to chemically mesh together. Then I'm going to take my brush, come in once again, and press it around. All right, then I'm going to come in and I'm going to start to fill in my flower. Now, if you look at this particular flower, you could really create a lot of different options here. I could actually come in with a darker purple and possibly create a like a lilac lily. I can go in and create a rose. There's a lot of different ways that I can go depending on what my customer wants and what I decide I'm going to do. A lot of my artwork is very spontaneous. So I'm going to pick up the next bead and I'm going to place it half over two of the petals that I've previously made. I'm going to take my brush and again repeat those same movements, coming in and working around. One of the fun things I love about doing flowers is that when you look at nature, no two petals are ever perfect, and so I don't have to worry about being completely perfect in my flowers. But once again, I'm very conscious about how deep I'm making this nail, because I don't want it to be really high in the center and thick when I'm done with my design. I want it to be very thin so that overall my nail is not really thick. So now I'm going to come in, and on this one here, I'm going to actually start coming into the center of that petal with my brush a little bit more. And just continuing to create another layer and another dimension of that now, that flower petal. And then one more up to the top. Press it kind of into place. And once again, using my brush, pressing it out, and I'm overlapping those petals the same way you would see in a real flower.